Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And the content that I'm going to show you right now are the top 3 times in the past 2 years where an entire population has been caught off guard by not being prepared without a Second Amendment, has adjusted to having a Second Amendment, and had the insane amount of consequences to not having a Second Amendment. If you've ever had a person say to you, "This could never happen," it's 2024. That doesn't happen anymore. It's the modern era. I'm about to show you 3 scenarios with clips and everything that you can show to them and say, well, all these things could never happen, just happened. The reason that we have a Second Amendment is for preservation of our lives and our freedom and our liberty. That is what this is about. So, of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, and please send this one out. And as you can see in the artwork that's coming up, make a commie cry and just share this video. Now, this content is brought to you by American Hartford Gold. I'm going to say a quick word from them, and then we're going to dive into it. Content today is brought to you by American Hartford Gold. And brothers and sisters, with everything popping off around the world, wars cracking off, we've got inflation issues, we've got stock market volatility, we have cash concerns, we have oil concerns. It's a good time to take a look and at least know your options with American Hartford Gold. They are dedicated to offering gold, silver, platinum, coins, and bars for your investing needs. Whether you want to do it delivered to your door or you want an IRA, Roth IRA, 401k, TSP, they've got options. This is something you guys should check out. At American Hartford Gold, they aim to educate clients about investments in the precious metal industry, strive to provide unparalleled customer service built on trust, integrity, and absolute transparency, while holding a goal of achieving 100% customer satisfaction. Click the link in the description or call 844-727-3199. That's 844-727-3199 or text Langley to 65532. Again, that's 844-727-3199 or text Langley to 65532. All right, we're going to dive into this because we need to have this on record. There have been 3 separate instances, 3 different countries, all in different scenarios that all have been horrible for the population of those countries that could have been prevented if they had a Second Amendment. And I'm going to walk you through each of them. Here's the top 3. Israel, that one happened. Ukraine, that one happened. And then now Venezuela. All 3 of these reasons are why we have a Second Amendment in this country, which is why we fight and preserve to have our Second Amendment in this country, because the armed population is a guarantee against all 3 of these things that I'm about to show you. All right, so with that said, again, share this out, make a commie cry, as you can see. The first thing I'm going to touch on is Hamas-led groups committed numerous war crimes on October 7th, the rights group says. Well, no kidding. So now, if you're not familiar, October 7th of last year was a terrorist attack from Hamas on Israel. It was an attack by a well-armed, organized group against a disarmed group. Okay? In Israel, you could not have gun rights. They were not a gun-friendly state. You could have very few limits on who was allowed to have guns. You couldn't even have more than 50 rounds of ammunition, and you had to have all sorts of permitting, all sorts of things. We covered it. But you could not have guns across the board as a population. That was just not something that they did. Well, this happens October 7th, which was a horrendous terroristic attack. And now they've loosened up those laws because the need for guns has now been made apparent, brought to the forefront. If they had those guns and those rights ahead of time, what could have been prevented? That's the entire point. The entire point of this video is just that. If you had the Second Amendment, if you had a population that was well trained, was responsible, and could deter threats in a very quick amount of time, this could have been at least stymied and it would have been slowed. But anyway, that's October 7th on Israel. So again, no guns, terrorist attack, all of a sudden everyone can have guns through the licensure and have more ammunition as well. Because all of a sudden roving groups of individuals and civilians and citizens having guns will now prevent terror and prevent crime and prevent murder. You saw it in Israel. Okay, so Israel is a pretty powerful example. We covered that. Again, I'm going to get Venezuela in a second, but it is time for Ukraine. I've got to show you what's happening there because you remember this. This was a video that was right when Russia was invading Ukraine. Again, all this happened in the last 3 years. So it's going to be some Ukrainian. But effectively, what you're dealing with here is the Ukrainian government was dumping AKs in the middle of the street for civilians to walk around and go fight Russia. They opened up the Cold War armories and just dumped AKs on the street. We covered all of this from Israel to Ukraine, and now we're doing Venezuela. They literally handed their civilians, no matter who it was, an AK because the threat from Russia was too great, and they changed their entire laws, or excuse me, the entirety of their laws to allow guns in civilian hands. It happened in Ukraine. We covered it. I got another thing for you. Check this out. This is something else. That's not the right one. Hold on. There we go. Ukraine handing out AK-47s to civilians is fascinating to me. It must be a surreal moment. No training, no comms, no battle plan. Just take this gun and shoot at Russians. Would you rather have that, or would you have a well-armed populace that was extremely efficient and proficient and used to their weaponry because it was theirs and they owned it through the Second Amendment, the people being armed? What do you think is going to have a better outcome? And that's the entire point. If you look at the actual government of Ukraine, what they did when they were basically attacked by Russia was they started off saying guns were not allowed to be in private hands. That was not good. Not good at all. Not in a modern society. What could ever happen? Russia invades. They changed the ability for civilians to own guns in under 12 hours. They start handing out guns in under 12 hours. AKs to civilians who don't even know how they're used. And now they've been embroiled in a war with Russia for the last year and a half. There's your second example. The population was not prepared. They were not well regulated. They were not well armed. They did not have an idea of what they were doing. Second Amendment could have been ready to muster an entire standing army like that, but they didn't. They looked like this. As this says, no training, no comms, no battle plan. Just take this gun and shoot at Russians. It's a recipe for disaster of your civilian populace. But anyway, that's Ukraine. We've touched on Israel and Ukraine. Let's go back. Get this one. Nope, not that one. This one. This is what's happening today in Venezuela. Now, some backstory on this, if you didn't catch my first video, because I did a short one with this in it earlier. Venezuela is under a socialist dictator, okay? Maduro is his name. He just stole the election. The people are pissed. They don't have guns. In 2009, they were confiscated. In 2019, the government started using heavy-handed tactics with firearms against their population, which culminated in mass murder and basically just the government killing their own people, okay? Now, as we go forward, this is what's happening after the protests have started from the stealing of that election. This is what they're doing actively on the streets. And I'm going to show you a couple things which I mentioned in my first video.
Ven, que son, ven. Son pistolas, son pistolas, ven. Ven, ven.
All right, I'm going to pause that for a second, then I'm going to come back to another point here. You had protesters upset about the election being stolen from them. You had an entire police line all in military uniform. They were holding the line in riot gear. Okay. Then someone starts shooting. The protesters go this way, the police go this way, and who's left behind is, oddly enough, very well fed, very well organized, armed people in an entire state that is completely disarmed, all with pistols that are concealed, and they're working together. I wonder who this could be. Let me show you.
Dale, pósame, anda, pósame, sígueme posando, que te vi bello. Sígueme posando, anda. Dale, pósame y párame para acá, ven.
All right, that's enough of that. So now you've got organized groups of non-military uniformed people that are shooting at protesters. Well, the protesters are protesting the socialist government under Nicolas Maduro. So who do you think those are? Those are the brown shirts. Those are the ones that are not uniformed. It's the secret police. Those are the Stasi. That's who that is. It's weird how they're collected, they're organized, they're armed, they're well fed, and they seem to be very hell-bent on shooting protesters. This is literally every single socialist and communistic government that has ever existed. This is where it always goes. Now let me kind of tie this all together in a bigger, broader image, okay? The Second Amendment is meant to be a bulwark against tyranny. That's the whole point. Whether you are foreign or you are domestic. That's literally the whole point of the entire thing. A well-armed populace is going to fight off tyranny. You come invade us, we're ready. You take us from internal, we're ready. Any type of tyranny, the entire idea is the population is armed to deal with it. And the idea of Israel, if the entire population was armed, you've got a whole lot more people that can fight back to a surprise terrorist attack. Israel didn't have that. The results were disastrous. Then you had Ukraine. A well-armed population could have been ready to muster an entire standing militia or army, depending on how you want to do it, in no time flat. You could have had an entire well-regulated, well-practiced, well-armed population ready to go to defend their country. Didn't have it. They were dumping AKs on the street to grandmothers. Then you got Venezuela. Venezuela has been completely disarmed. They are a socialist government. The people who have the guns are the ones who do not have military garb on, who are facing the protesters and shooting them. Everything that I'm showing you can be prevented by a Second Amendment in a country. But because the idea of safety for the population, which is always the guise for tyranny, this is the result that you have. They're going to tell you that all of these things could never happen in a modern society. It's 2024. This is a thing of the 1900s, of the 20th century. This could never happen. But when you look at what we've seen in the last 3 years, we have seen stolen elections in Venezuela, which has led to violence and protest. You have seen a insurrection from, well, not really an insurrection, that's the right word. You have seen a terrorist attack from an outside group into another. Second Amendment could have been protected. And then you saw an active state of war from one country to another. All three of these things we were told could never happen. They've happened in the last 3 years. And I hope I landed this plane. Let me know what you guys think in the comments field, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.